that I think is absolutely awesome. And as a result, I think you need to know them too. So you can probably see the amazing Kelly Slessor that is virtually sat next to me. So give a big wave to Kelly. Before we get started, we are live streaming across Facebook, across LinkedIn, and across to YouTube. If you are loving what you hear by the end of this session, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. We are loading up content in there all the time. You'll see there's a little bell. Make sure you click on that so that you can get notice of these live streams that we do and all the other videos that we are putting up. Also today, we are going to, at the end of this live stream, we'll actually be closing off and saying goodbye to our friends on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook, but we will be continuing to live stream across on my Facebook group. This is a private group where there are some incredible business owners, incredible entrepreneurs, incredible leaders that are all looking to connect, to collaborate, and to inspire each other to do great work. And Kelly is going to exclusively in that group be sharing with us actual tips and tools of how you can absolutely get yourself to the top of Google and really drive those leads and those opportunities to increase your business. So if you want to come over and hear that last bit of this session, make sure you jump on over to that Facebook group, the Networking Matrix, and we will see you there. I'll make sure to remind you too. We are opening the chat. If you're listening live right now, please give us a massive hello, high five, and tell us where you are from. And if you're listening to this as a recording, comment too, because we'd love to say hi. We'd love to get to know you. All right, so let's crack on with this session. So as you know, I am passionate about the power of connection. Having built my own career over 20 years, then having built my own business over 20 years, over 10 years, not 20 years, I'm not that old, not yet. One of the things that I know to be true is that if we want to unlock our brilliance, if we want to achieve a new frontier of brilliance for our businesses, doing the work that we love in the way that we want to do it and really making that impact, then it actually all revolves around who you know, surrounding yourself with the right people that are going to really push your thinking, really challenge your thinking, and actually help you fast track that growth momentum. And so this is where this monthly series has come from, this Who You Know series, introducing mates, friends, contacts, network of mine to you so that you can get to know them too. And it's an absolute pleasure to welcome today the amazing Kelly Slessor. Kelly, say hi.
Good morning. It is good morning, isn't it? It feels like afternoon.
Well, it's good morning for us in Sydney. It's a grey, horrible morning for us in Sydney. It's evening, afternoon time for those of you that are listening in the Northern Hemisphere, but it is good morning. Kelly, let me just quickly tell people why I think you're awesome. Well, first of all, last year you were actually voted as one of the women to watch when it comes to retail disruption. So high five, kudos for you for achieving that. What I love about you is that you spent the last 20 years really living and breathing this space. You are so obsessed with the world of digital technology and innovation. It's insane. And you've really spent this last 20 years driving digital growth and driving innovation. And you work with thousands of retailers. You've worked with hundreds of industries and organizations globally. You're seen as a strategic advisor in this space. You consult in this space. You're a media commentator. I've been seeing you popping up across the media left, right, and center. And now, well, particularly in this post-COVID world, you've actually been quite vocal about where we are letting ourselves down when it comes to digital. So this is why I wanted you here today, because you've been that employee, you've been the employer, you are a startup, you live and breathe digital, and yet you're so passionate about why we need to be in this space and equally the mistakes that people are making. So this is what we're talking about. So to open up, why, and when we talk digital, we're not just talking websites, are we? We're talking social platforms. We're literally talking about our digital footprint across every single channel. So we're not just talking about websites and e-commerce, we're talking about your digital footprint, the presence that you're having out there digitally. Why in your mind is it just the most critical thing that we have to do as business owners right now?
Thanks, Janine. You give me all of these accolades, and I'm like, I've got to perform.
No.
Anyway,
we can relax. We're chatting.
Thank you for having me. So, what I'm definitely seeing is I'm getting feedback on this a little bit.
Yeah, I can hear that bit. It's your end, I think.
Okay. So what I'm seeing is an issue around connection. That's the biggest piece. It's connecting in a digital world. So we are used to connecting physically, we are used to connecting in person, but what's happened and what COVID has done in the last, 6 to 12 months is forced us into this digital world, which is something I've been saying is going to happen for a very long time, probably for 20 years, but we've seen the impact of it. And I think, what I have been saying for a very long time is that we need to work out how to connect in this digital space, because we are not afforded the environment that we were before COVID, and more so we're spending more of our time in this digital space. And it's how do businesses cut through, how do businesses connect, how do businesses ensure that when a customer is looking for them or their services, that when a customer's looking for their services or their product, that they find them over the competition, and that they're the ones that stand out and it makes sense to buy from, not someone else. And in a physical world, it's much easier, right?
Yeah, why is it easier in the physical world versus the digital world? Because every man and his dog is launching a website. Every one of us is being challenged to go online, to raise our profile, to let people know that we're here. And I'm sure there's people listening going, God, I'm so exhausted with constantly posting and updating, and I don't seem to be getting anything back. So what is that missing bit? What is that difference?
Yeah, so I think the difference between physical is I can sit and have a conversation with you and say, Janine, what are your issues? What's going on with you? What do you need? How are the kids? I can ask you questions and I can get a sense of where you're at and why you need what I've got. And then I can try and work out how I can deliver on what you need, because I can have an emotional connection with you. In a digital world, we don't do that. So when I think about retail, and this applies to small businesses, because retail is actually the absolute cold face of digital, because what they're trying to do is sell a product. We're all trying to sell something when it comes to digital, whether you're a charity, a chiropractor, a consultant or a coach, we're all trying to sell something online, and retail's at the forefront of it. So that's why I think small businesses can take a lot of lessons from retail. So when I think about retail, if someone walks into a retail store or if someone walks into a meeting with you, probably around 20 to 30% of those will convert into a customer. When we look at it online, around 2% will convert online. It shows how big that gap is between what we want as customers and what we're actually giving from a digital experience. And I would say that was a lot less when it comes to service businesses and independent entrepreneurs. Basically, the ability to sell online is a lot smaller.
Yeah, and you can't just go, I'm opening a website or I'm launching, whether that be a retailer, whether you're a brand, whether you're a speaker, whether you're a financial services, legal. It's not just about, brilliant, I'm online. I have now opened my website. Thank you very much. And I might have a LinkedIn profile. It needs effort, doesn't it? It almost needs way more effort, because it's just constantly changing. And I think that's why so many people get a little bit demoralized by, how on earth do I actually get some cut through here? I want to talk about the rant that you had. You were recently giving a keynote to a group of leading big retailers over here in Australia. and you were sharing with me how annoyed you were because of the speed of this change. Can you just give the people that are watching now some context around why we can't ignore this stuff, why we've actually got to, you can't just be there, you've got to understand it. So why is it so important? Why can we not ignore it anymore?
So the reason I was ranting is I was in a room full of there was around about 500 people in the room, and I was talking about the speed and change of digital. And there was a moment before I got on stage, and I hadn't got on stage for a while. There was a moment before I got on stage where I went, oh, I've been in this similar room with these similar people around about 10 years ago, having a similar conversation. And actually, I managed to dig out some of my presentations, and they weren't that different to the stuff that I'm talking about now. Technology has moved on, so the technology has changed, but the conversation around customer engagement, personalization, and the need to speed up our digital platforms has not changed at all. And I just felt this sense of frustration that we actually had time. We had time to prep for this. And what we did was we messed around for so long. We just didn't commit to it. We didn't make the decision. Now, what we've seen in the last 6 months is digital has accelerated by 10 years. And if you look at Ray Kowertz, who is a futurist economist, he said we are still on the brink of it. And he has mapped lots of different changes across the globe and across time, and seen that when we hit this kind of point, it's like that. And literally in the last 6 months, we've hit that point. So he's saying that basically we have no idea what is coming in the next 3 years. This is nothing. This acceleration we're seeing now is nothing compared to where we'll be in 3 years' time. And if you think about it, there are more people online, there's more activity online, there's more brains online, there's more people coding and developing technology than ever before. We are just going to see this industry grow and grow and grow.
Gosh, that's exciting, and equally at the same time you go, oh, how do I make sure that I am part of that growth? So, you know, you've worked with thousands of individuals, retailers, big businesses, small businesses. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you are still seeing that you literally wish you could grab people and shake them, because essentially they're throwing money away? There's no point. They're not getting any traction, because obviously part of the reason we are online is that we want more leads, we want more clients, and ultimately we're trying to grow our businesses. Whether you're a small one-man retailer, whether you are a plumber, an electrician, or an architect, or a retailer, or a professional services firm, or a property firm, it's all about getting your brand out there, generating leads, and ultimately converting. So that hasn't changed. We're in business for a reason. So what are some of the things that you're continuing to see? And I know you see them because you see it in my work too, that you continue to see that you're going, come on, get these basics right, for goodness sake.
So there's two things that people generally come to me for. I mean, there's lots of questions they ask, but it boils down to two things. So the first one is, I want more traffic. And the second one is, I want more conversion. So I want more people through my front door, and I want to sell more, essentially. That's it. Yeah. And there's lots of questions that go around that. How do I do Facebook ads? How do I SEO my website? How do I build a website? It's traffic, sales, or it's customers, or it's sales. That's the two biggest problems. And generally they come to me with a customer problem. Now, the biggest mistake people make is they try and get too many customers in without working out how they're going to do this conversion piece. And the problem we have with the conversion piece or the sales piece is that we don't invest in that emotional journey. So we don't really work out what it is that's going to get you in. So I'm sitting with you and I'm talking about your business, and I'm trying to understand the challenges you face at the moment, and we have a conversation, and then I understand and I can emotionally connect with you and talk to you about how to fix your problem. We don't do that on websites. We just go in cold. And again, going back to retail, if you walk into a store, I'll go, Janine, what event have you got on? Are you looking for something in particular? Sometimes it's quite annoying, but look, sometimes it can be really helpful. Are you looking for an event? And those people in the store where you go, I love you. You've just saved me some time. You've made it really easy for me. Or alternatively, you walk in and someone goes, I've got 14,000 products. Some are down the back, some are up the front, some are in the middle. There you go. And then they just leave you to wade around going, oh my God, I've got this event. I've got this problem to solve. I've got a child's birthday party. It doesn't make sense, but that's what we do in digital. Every single day we're doing that in digital. We're just opening the door and going, there, go find whatever you need. I don't care what you need or what you want.
I'm here somewhere, find me. God, we do. We so do. And you see it. There's a question, and I'd love you to introduce yourself, because all that's come up on my chat facility is it just says Facebook user, and I'd love to know if I know you. But someone's just asked the name that you mentioned about the guy that had said we're literally at this next massive growth. What was his name?
If you get a chance, watch it's Raymond Kurzweil. It's Kurzweill. He's amazing. If you get a chance to watch some of his stuff, it will show you why I kind of, why I'm so adamant about the speed of change, because he's just got some amazing stats, and they've used some ways to extrapolate forward what we're going to see in the next couple of years. He's a futurist and inventor. He's amazing. So innovators, look him up.
Oh, Celeste, it's Celeste Moroney. Hello, Celeste. Good morning. Yes, we do know each other. Wonderful to see you. For any of you that are watching, I can see that there's people online. Please let me know who you are, where you're watching in from. We have the incredible Kelly Slessor joining us this morning. Kelly knows a thing or two about the digital space, not only how you can maximize your presence on there, but most importantly, how do you get more traffic to your digital platform, and how do you convert it? And she's on a mission to help as many people get noticed online as much as possible. She's worked with thousands and thousands of retailers. She's an advisor, a commentator. She's constantly getting asked to speak about this. This woman normally costs an absolute fortune to get advice from. So we have her for free. Pick her brains, people. If you've got any questions, if you are an online retailer, let us know what your business is. Let us know what your digital challenges are. I'll keep my eye on the chat and we can ask Kelly straight away. So Kelly, just going back to what we were just talking about, where you were saying that part of the challenge is that we just forget it's almost like the experience piece. It's how do you build an experience? How do you build connection online? How do you help people fall in love with your brand, essentially, so that they want to do business with you? What sort of tips do you have? What are almost some of the non-negotiables now?
Yeah, I think you've got to remember that not everyone's going to fall in love with your brand, and what you've got to work out is those people that are going to fall in love with your brand and try and get to them as quickly as possible. So I think the first thing in the journey of digital, which many people forget about, is understanding who your customer are. And it's not easy. I mean, we both know it's not easy to get to that customer and understand them. So it really is mapping out who they are. Where are they? What are they doing? What channels are they on? What are they engaging in? What content are they seeing that they're liking and promoting or sharing? If you don't understand your customer in digital, one of my kind of things that I talk a lot about is the cost to acquire a customer on average in Australia is around about $24 to $30 in retail. For things like for other businesses, it can be much higher. So the way to reduce that cost of acquisition is by really understanding, homing in on the customer. You don't want to compete with, you don't want to try and target 1 million customers. Like you go into, one of the things, the first question I ask retailers is, who are you targeting? And generally they say, well, my customer is between 18 and 65, male and female. I'm like, so that's 7 point something million people in Australia then. So have you got a budget to target 7.8 million people?
Or the classic one I do when I first got asked was, well, but I can help everyone.
Yeah. No, you can't. You can't. Not in.
Well, you can, but it doesn't help you niche down. This niche, what you're talking about is what's the niche? Who are you really talking to? Who are the primary people that are coming in to work with you? On my one of the programs that I run, literally, this is a whole conversation. People, you're right, Kelly. People find it really tricky to actually get clear on who they help.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Is it because we're worrying about who we might not reach? Like, where does that fear come from? That fear around getting clear on who you're looking after?
I think if I think about retail specifically, it's because historically, when you've got a shop front, people just walk past and they are 18 to 65 and they'll pop in and you have all, but in digital, that doesn't work because you've got, a million other companies on there as well that are targeting the same group of people. So you have to be more and more specific in a digital forum.
Yeah. Yeah, so you've got to are you basically saying get as tight as you can, get as niche as you can? I'm not sure. I've got a former client that was messaging saying she was looking forward to this conversation. I don't know if she's online, but she's got this business and it's a bit of a side hustle where essentially it is birthday parties for dogs is her business. Like, it's so cool. And she's just launched it. And
the biggest growing industry, one of the biggest growing industries globally.
One of the biggest growing industries globally. All right, so we've all got to move into pets now.
Absolutely.
But that's an example, right, of getting really clear, because everybody potentially has a pet, but then getting clear on it's people with dogs. But then it's almost going, you've got to get clearer still. Who is actually, because there's a whole heap of dog owners out there, but who is actually prepared to spend the equivalent of birthday party money on having a birthday party for a dog? You've got to get that niche to be able to maximize your time, dollars, effort, etc. Yeah. Cool. So we've got to get clear on who. What's next?
Dog parties is here.
Yeah, someone's just written, I'm here. Dog. Oh, fabulous. So so introduce yourself. Claire has, that's you. I'm hoping you've just come up as Facebook user, Claire. I'm hoping it's Claire. Claire, put in the message, your business, because you never know. Kelly may be able to do a quick search on her phone at the same time. So stick it in there. And maybe if it is you, Claire, what is your biggest challenge? Ask away. So we get who, what else?
Okay, then I go to data. So I can say who, we can sit around a room and say who we think it is, then we start looking at our data and that builds up over time, right? So you look at your Google Analytics, you look at your Facebook Analytics. So on your Facebook page, you've got insights. On Instagram, you've got insights. On Google Analytics, you've got insights. What's the age group? Who are they? What's the distribution of gender? Then we get really, really clear on who they are. The other thing to look at is who's your best customer, who spends the most, who's the most connected to you and shares the most about you. And they're probably the customers that you want to target because you can use them as a reference. So once you're very clear on the customer, the next thing is building out your digital channel and making sure you've got the right platforms in place, all the right plugins. So I do a session on platforms and plugins and making sure you've got the right technology. That doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be a $10,000 or $50,000 or $100,000. It can be like a real brochure site that then kind of tells people exactly what you do, but also gives a connection to you. One of the biggest mistakes I see, and one of the things we're seeing growing, is the searches or the hits on the About Us page. So in small business, the biggest page that people look at is the About Us page. Most people do a standard, we are X, we were founded in X, we sell X, that's it. Or we provide this service. There's no emotional connection. There's no, this is who we are. This is what we do. This is why we're passionate about it. And this is why you should choose us over the competition. So,
and that's where Kelly one of my other network that's coming onto this show shortly, and you've met her, Gabrielle Dolan.
Yeah.
She's just released a book called Magnetic Stories, and one of her passion projects is almost killing off the here's our story about me that currently exists, because as she said, nobody is telling their story. It's all very bland and boring, and what you're actually saying supports that, in that we've actually got to be brave enough to let people see us. Like if somebody walked into your shop front or walked into your office or gave you a phone call, they get to know you. That business, by the way, of Claire's is called Let's Pawty, Pawty.
Love it.
When you start talking, have a look and see if you've got any things you can feed back to her. So sorry, I totally interrupted you, but you're right. It's like that's part of building that emotion, right? So if people do nothing else, get that About Us page, that Our Story page sorted, and just be real, right? Like tell the story behind the brand.
Absolutely. And the connection to purpose and connection to why, and all of the things that when someone looks at, a big organization, they're not going to get that connection to why. So that's where we as small independent businesses can really stand out. So there's kind of building the platforms and plugins, but thinking about the customer the whole time. You're not building a platform. You're actually building a place for customers to connect to you or to your business or to your service or whatever it is. It's not technology. It's not about the technology. The next piece is once you've kind of built it, then you need to be found, right? So then you need to, generate the traffic. So again, for retail, what we look at is Google being your front door. So what happens when you Google yourself? And do it in incognito mode, because you will always get what Google wants you to see because you've already seen yourself, as it were, which sounds weird, but anyway. So in the top right-hand corner of your Chrome or whatever you use, there's 3 dots. You click on the 3 dots, you go into incognito mode, and then you Google yourself. What comes up? And if you were a prospect, would that make you want to go there and buy? Would it make them go, I want to engage with this business? And
Kelly, just a sec, just to clarify, when you go into Cognito and you Google yourself, do you Google, so if I take Claire's example here, do you advise her to Google Let's Pawty, or do you Google dog parties for dogs?
Both.
Which one do you do?
Both.
You do both. So I would do Janine Garner, and then I do, I don't know, networking skills or leadership programs, for example.
Totally. So you would search the terms that your customers are going to search, or you think your customers are going to search, and see whether you pop up. Most businesses I work with, before I've worked with them, don't pop up at all. So they go, I don't know why I'm not getting any traffic. And then they search for the thing they're selling, and they're on page 120. Little tip, 70% of people do not go past Google's first page. And I think I can't remember what the stat is now, but most people will only look at the first 3 results. It's actually higher than 70%. But anyway, most people will only look at the first 3 results. So if you're not in the first 3 results and not on the first page, then you actually, in your mind of your customer, don't exist, unfortunately. So what I see is when we go through that process of Googling ourselves, we don't come up at number 1. And it's not easy to get to number 1. There are some challenges around it. But what I would say is you need to, I'm just closing down. Sorry, I was just getting messaging coming through. You need to make sure that your website has got all the right information in it to make sure you're found at the top of Google.
So what sort of information, when you talk about putting right information, so I can't just write what I want to write and that's my page published?
All right, I'm going to use Let's Pawty as a example. So
excellent. Okay, I hope you're online, Claire. Just give me a high 5 thumbs up. Say yes, I'm here. You're about to get some free advice.
awesome, Claire, up as #1 in Google Maps. So at the very top, I don't know if you can see that, everybody. At the very top, it's a bit hard. No, not really. Anyway, very top, Let's Party Sydney, dog party planning comes up, and you've got 5-star reviews. Brilliant. You are probably the #1 company I would go to. What then is missing is I scroll down, and if you go back to the old marketing theory of you need to connect 7 times in order for someone to purchase, we want to get in front of people as much as we possibly can. So what generally people will do is they'll go dog party, and then they'll scroll down, they'll see it in maps, they'll click on your maps, they'll look at your reviews, they'll look at your imagery, all subconsciously. They'll see if you're open, then they'll look for your website underneath. Now, you, Claire, don't come up underneath as a link. What comes up is I'm guessing, an informational page, which is better parties for dogs and parties. Then you've got Pinterest, then you've got Vet West. Actually, Vet West is talking about you, which is good. But no one owns that party space for dogs. So if we can get you to the top of Google with your website as well, then we've got 2 points of reference where a customer goes, oh, they're in maps, they've got a 5-star rating and their website's here. Let's just make this really simple for them. You know, it's a really easy, I can connect through, and then what's the experience like in the website that makes it easy for me to buy from you?
I love it. And Claire is listening, by the way. So this is awesome. Thank you, Claire, for letting me use your website as an example to bring to life what Kelly's talking about. If anyone else wants to pop their brand in, please do, or ask a question. So Kelly, what I'm hearing, if I chunk up what you're talking about, it's almost like this shift of, instead of us just thinking of digital just as a platform, as a thing, like, you know, I'm a trained marketeer, it's turning it from the ad, the radio campaign, the print ad, the TV campaign, the event. Instead of it being a thing, we've actually got to see it as a means by which we can connect with our customers. And therefore, it's about, how do I make it as easy as possible for customers to connect with me? And it's this subtle shift of moving from it being just a standard thing, like a Facebook page, a website, Instagram live story. It's not a thing anymore. It's about absolutely focusing on that customer and going, who am I talking to? Where are they? And how do I make it as easy as possible for them to find me? Is that right, to simplify what you've just said?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's, again, if you go back to the physical store, you don't necessarily think about the walls and the box and the door. You think about, how do I style it and merchandise it? Once you've built the shell, which is the technology, how do I style it, merchandise it, and organize my products in such a way, or my services, that when customers walk in, they pick things up, they touch them, they buy them, and that they engage with them? How do I position my desk, the service desk or the till, and my staff, so that when someone comes in, they can interact with them and say hi and give them a nice smile? How do I do that? You don't think about the walls. And I think we get drawn too much into thinking about the walls rather than the experience the customer has as they walk through a store. Yeah.
Talking about walls, can we talk for a second about putting money into advertising your brand online? So Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, etc., etc. You know, there's been a whole industry that is making money out of businesses pumping advertising dollars into this online space. And at the same time, I'm sure, like myself, you're hearing lots of people that are starting to question, is there a return on this? How do I make this work? Because it's almost like there's this invisible algorithm stuff going on that you've got no control over. What is your advice for any brands that are listening in, or any business owners that are listening in that are going, should I do this? And if so, what questions should I be asking? How do I make sure I'm not just throwing my money down the toilet, essentially?
So, I mean, we know the pain of this, right, Janine? Like, it's not easy. And I'm in this business and been in this business for 20 years, and I still find the whole digital ads just painful, you know. And it's because it hasn't been set up for small business. It's set up for big corporates that have big teams to actually do this stuff, and it isn't easy. So I'm not going to sit here and say, you just need to tweak this and do this and it will be great and you're going to make loads of millions of dollars. That's not true at all. What you need to do is basically make sure you've got your messaging right, make sure you've got your conversion right, and then test. So it really is about using small budget to test different messaging and different key things. It's much easier when you've got a product than a service, because you've got something really tangible you can show. Whereas when you have a service, the messaging is the bit that sells it, and you potentially. So you really need to make sure you've got your messaging right. And then it's about your targeting. So again, you know, some tests that we've been doing around targeting is that, you know, if you take a target audience and you're doing your 18 to 65, you're going to spend a lot of money. So narrow it down, then look at doing maybe specific areas. So if your business is just in a specific area, why are you targeting the whole of Australia? Start with that specific area first of all, because that's probably where you've got the most word of mouth, and test that. Then once you've got the messaging right and you know you're converting people off the back of that, then you grow it into maybe a bigger area if that's kind of the next stage for you. But I think, you know, with digital advertising, it is hard. It's getting busier. It's getting noisier. Facebook and Google ads are getting more crowded. They're charging more money. And the cut through isn't happening, unfortunately, at the moment. I'm seeing a lot of business struggling with this issue. But I do think if you target properly, if you get your messaging correct and you test, you will get to the point where you will, but everything's also got to align as well. Like, you've got to have your presence aligned with your online social presence. So what I often see is that the ad doesn't align to what they get when they go to the website. So they make great creative ads or terrible ads, one of the two, and then they get to the website and it's a totally different experience. You've got to think about the journey.
What's your view on social media channels? So being used for positioning work. So, you know, posting on Facebook, Instagram stories, LinkedIn, how important do you see those digital channels as part of lead gen, raising profile, getting people to that website too?
It's important, but it's bloody exhausting, right? You've got to be in all channels. You've got to be all things to everyone. It's like, I'm in YouTube, I'm in Instagram, my kid's shouting at me, the dog's barking. I think, again, going back to that customer piece, it's trying to understand where your customers are, where your biggest customers are. I'm constantly testing, so I'll test lots of different channels. But if I bring it back fundamentally to where my customers are, there are certain channels my customers are on, and that's where I get the most cut through, and that's where I get the biggest return on investment. And it is really focusing on that. That's the first piece. The second piece is you do need to take advantage of trends. So, for instance, I was working with a retailer who sells the most amazing plants. Rooted, Lisa, is just phenomenal. Her brand is called Rooted, and she sells these amazing plants. Now, she's got a really good Instagram following, but she kind of plateaued a bit. Now, one of the things that you have to do is jump on any algorithm changes. So Facebook will make an algorithm change, Instagram will make an algorithm change, and you can literally search them. You can go Instagram algorithms and it will tell you what the changes are. Now, if you jump on that wave early, because Instagram sole purpose is to get more engagement, is to grow. I'll give you a real example. So Reels at the moment, if you use Reels, you get more engagement. And the reason is because Instagram have seen that they're losing this traffic to TikTok, and they're seeing that this short form video is working because we have attention spans of goldfish and we are all digitally exhausted. So a 2 minute quick in, quick out, or 1 minute is, is working. So they're now switched their algorithm to Reels, and they're investing time in Reels to get more customers or more users in. So what we saw was, as soon as she started using Reels, her engagement started to grow again. So jumping on those algorithms and making sure you're taking advantage of them is going to get you more traffic. But it is a vanity measure. If you're not converting that traffic, then it's just a waste of time.
Yeah. And do you see a lot of people, a lot of brands that you're working with get caught up in those vanity measures and they forget to actually watch the real number they should be watching? Like, it's almost like, and it's crazy, isn't it? It's like I don't know, it's like this social thing of conforming to some extent and chasing those vanity measures. And yet we've got to be brave enough to let some of them go and focus on the commercial aspects of what it is that we're doing.
Totally. And I think the way I try and position it, whenever I set up dashboards for brands and retailers, the top of my dashboard is revenue sales. Then it goes to cost per acquisition. We still look at the vanity metrics, and I used to say don't look at the vanity metrics, but actually what I've realized is the vanity metrics feed endorphins, and they make people feel good. The reality is they make people feel good. And even sometimes when you're not making the sales, this is kind of creating a groundswell to get to this. And as long as you can see this coming, so you can see your cost per acquisition going down, you can see your leads or your revenue going up, that's great. If this isn't growing at all and your cost per acquisition is increasing, then these vanity metrics need to be reviewed. But I think from a team motivation perspective, I think vanity metrics do kind of need to be kept on the table a bit.
If anyone's got any questions, I can see a lot of you watching and listening in across each of the channels. Drop your question into the chat and we can ask Kelly. In these last few minutes that we're streaming across all channels, because shortly we're going to go and exclusively stream to my Facebook group, and in that session, Kelly's actually going to almost do a mini hot seat workshop around how to get your brand up to the top of that first page search piece that she was talking about. Let me just pop up the Facebook group so you can at the same time, oops, there we go. Let me just turn that one off. What have I got open? Here we go. So jump across to the networking matrix and get into that group, and you'll be able to hear firsthand some top tips and action plan of how to get yourself up to Google. So if anyone's got any questions, put them in that chat box. Kelly, as we wrap up this session, what's your favorite personal case study? A case study, an example of where you took X brand or X retailer, where they were, and then almost share some of those simple tips and techniques that you did and where it got to. And then we'll come back to answer the last few questions that are popping up.
Questions. So professional services and hospitality, I can hospitality is probably I can answer with my case study. So one of my favorite all-time clients is a retailer or a restaurant called Lovefish, and Michelle joined my course during COVID. So, restaurants were shutting down, multiple issues around, lockdown and not being able to kind of fill the restaurant and things like that. And she decided to just go gangbusters on her digital channels, and what a bloody amazing job she did. So we worked with her on basically getting up her Google reviews and actively encouraging customers to Google review her, making sure her Google presence was good. I think she's now #1 if you search for seafood restaurant in Barangaroo. I think she's #1, not just for the website, but for the map as well. I think she's #1. And we worked on getting that messaging right so that people click through. Then she started to do blogging. Imagine, for me, a restaurant, actually writing articles that are about trying to connect with her customers. So we did one on Melbourne Cup, and she got to #1 in Google for Melbourne Cup restaurants in Sydney or Barangaroo area. So she just embraced it and ran with it, and she taught herself how to do it. Now she outsources it. So that's one of my best case studies, because that's where you want to get to, right? You didn't set your business up to become a digital marketer. You set a business up because you're passionate about what you do. But in order to make informed decisions and not have people rip you off, unfortunately, you have to have knowledge of this stuff. So she was one of my favorites, because not only did she embrace it, see massive growth, she's number one.
I know, because you took me to that restaurant and she was sharing with me that in that first few weeks of COVID, I think her bookings dropped, like 500 people cancelled, 500 bookings cancelled. And any of you that are listening around the world will absolutely understand the impact that COVID has had on our professional services and hospitality industry. If we get rid of those vanity measures, Kelly, where's her business at now? Like how? So she's still operating. She's number one. In terms of what you're allowed to share, because I get she's your client, but I'm imagining things got really tough through COVID. She then did all this work. Where's she at now?
So cost per acquisition has gone down, traffic is increasing, obviously bums on seats. It's still a tough environment for restaurants, a really tough environment. That hasn't gone away, unfortunately, but she's seen massive traffic. And what's happened is the casino down the road has just opened. Now, what's going to happen is she's number one in Google. So when people, and if anyone is listening, you should go to Lovefish Restaurant. It is amazing. But she's set to be the number one when it comes to restaurants in that particular area. And she's invested in that channel. So it's great. She's also got a chatbot. So she implemented a chatbot to help people make bookings and get menus and things like that, which was amazing. So a restaurant using AI.
Yeah. And this is what this is exactly your whole positioning, where you're going, it's not about this or that. It's not about online or offline, in person or digital. It's not about Instagram or Facebook or AI or website. Your whole premise is it's actually about what is the brand, what is the business, what are we trying to achieve, who are my customers now, how am I going to make it as easy as possible for them, of which digital has become a non-negotiable in terms of having your brand on there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is awesome. All right, so I'll just check if there's any more questions. So we're about to shut off the live stream to my Facebook page, to LinkedIn and to YouTube. But Kelly is staying online for my private Facebook group. I would love you to jump on over there. Let me just get the graphic back up, because we want to focus. If I can take that caption off, it'd be easier to see, wouldn't it? Because we want to deep dive and do almost like a 15-minute masterclass. This is a learning 15 minutes on how you get your brand, your business, your website up there at the top to essentially learn the tricks, the tips, the tools that Kelly shared with her client, Lovefish. So if you are serious about generating leads, if you are serious about maximizing the chances of conversion, jump on over there and we will see you there. And I want a huge goodbye to our people on LinkedIn, our people on YouTube, and our people here on my Facebook group. Kelly, if people want to find you, where's the best place that they can get to you? They can find you.
I'm in all of your channels. LinkedIn. I'm LinkedIn.
She's everywhere.
On Facebook and Instagram, The Retail Edge. So you can find me on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. Yeah, they're my main channels.
Yeah, and you've also got, this is how we work, right? Power of connection. It's who you know. Kelly's also got a 7-week online masterclass for anybody that is wanting to really up their ante on lead gen and conversion. I'm assuming if they just email you, they can find out those details, or where can they find those details?
Kelly or you can either go to my website, kellyslessor.com, or you can just email me at kelly@kellyslessor.com.
Awesome. All right, don't go anywhere. I feel like about to go into a commercial break right now. We will see you over in our Facebook group. Goodbye for now, and I'll see the rest of you next week.